This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, we got a large poodle here who knows what he needs.
Okay. So one thing I did want to just thank is that a whole host of you have put a report on great nonprofits. Thank you so much, and we're well on our way. What we're trying to do now is rustle up some other conditions like our blood cancer people and our RMC people and our multiple sclerosis people. But we are. Thank you so much for responding, and I think we should have our seal pretty quickly. So, Tom, what we do here is we're going to ask you a few questions to get a handle on your situation, and then you can ask us some questions, and I'm sure the guys will want to ask you some questions. So we will start right now. The question that is at the end, but we like to bring it to the beginning in the Ben Nathanson style, is how did you find out about us?
My new friend Don Kramer from I'm from Colorado, by the way.
Okay.
We have a local support group, and
Okay.
I just was speaking to Don today, and he recommended you guys.
Excellent. So whereabouts in Colorado are you?
I'm just outside of Boulder, out in the weeds a little bit between Boulder and Longmont.
Okay. Well, we have somebody who used to live there for many years who's on the call right now. That somebody looks like he got a haircut. Did somebody get a haircut?
No, I got it tied up.
Oh, you got it tied up. Okay. That's what it is. How old are you, Tom?
71.
71. Okay. And when were you first diagnosed?
Last year, about, I don't know, February or March, probably March.
That's close enough for us. And what was your Gleason score and your PSA level at diagnosis?
At diagnosis, my PSA was, I think, 30.7, and my Gleason score was 4+5.
Okay, great. That's good. Not great, but that's exactly the information that we needed. I shouldn't have said great.
Great,
and we know that where you live is a bit of a desert, somewhat of a desert to find really good treatment. So where did you seek treatment, and what doctors did you see?
Okay, I don't look at it as too much of a desert, but you guys in New York maybe might consider it that. I started with my GP sent me to Dr. Clark at Colorado Oncology, and he did first I had had a he did the biopsy anyway, and that's and then Boulder Community Hospital staff reviewed the results of that as well as the MRI I had, and Dr. Clark started me pretty quickly on a course of first Degerlix, and then Lupron, so ADT. I then decided to go to an oncologist instead of the urologist. So I went to Dr. Barnett at Rocky Mountain Cancer Center in Longmont, who I'm still with.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what the biopsy found and what your and it sounds like they decided not to do any primary treatment, but just to put you on Degarelix and Degarelix first, and then switch you to Lupron. Are you taking anything else other than Lupron?
Yeah, enzalutamide.
Okay. And did
Um,
Dr. Barnett put you on enzalutamide?
no, actually, Clark put me on that, and then Barnett kept me on that. Um,
Okay.
and I
And
went
what?
back. I went back to darolutamide when I went to Barnett,
Okay.
and I
Um,
only recently jumped back to Lupron because I got tired of the monthly shots in the stomach. Um, but I've just been approved for Orgovix, the pill.
okay.
Um, so once the Lupron wears off in a month or so, I will be going to Orgovix and not doing Lupron anymore.
And how long was that depot shot that you got, the last Lupron shot?
3 month.
Okay, great. Okay. Um, so tell us a little bit about what the MRI and the biopsy and the MRI uncovered.
Okay. The Let me think this through. I actually got some notes here. The biopsy just showed uh, they did 8 cores on the biopsy. Um, 2 of them were 4+5, and others, of course, were less. Um, the and I can bring that up if we need further more information on
Mm-hmm.
that. The MRI was done first.
Let me just stop on the biopsy for a second. Was there anything unusual reported in the biopsy? Did they see extracapsular extension, or did they comment if something was intraductal or cribriform or anything like that?
I don't think so. Um,
Okay.
Everything, and I followed that up with a full body bone scan,
Yep.
um, and that showed I think 5 lesions, mostly on the pelvis. I think one on the femur.
Okay. And nothing in the soft tissue. No
No,
lymph nodes.
they also did a CAT scan for the soft tissue and
Yep.
found nothing.
Okay. Did you get a PSMA?
I have not yet.
Okay.
That because the um, the ADT knocked my it knocked my PSA down really fast.
Sure.
And
Which is great.
what I understand about that is, my PSA is undetectable right now. But
Which is great. Yep.
yeah, and what I understand about that is if I went to get a PSMA, it's not necessarily going to be very accurate because how low my PSA is.
No, no, but you see, we would say that you should have discussed, or your doctor should have known to look at a PSMA before he put you on the hormone therapy. And the reason for that
Okay. Yeah.
is because it more accurately identifies how many lesions, and the number of lesions indicate the treatment. So you were really on the borderline there for
Yep.
just doing enzalutamide. And back in December of last year, when did you say?
March.
March of last year. Um, you could have got they could have ordered a PSMA scan. It could have been available at that time.
Okay. Well, that's a
It
good.
might have
That's a
been
good.
difficult.
I hear you. The reason I left Dr. Clark was he wasn't very open to other information coming in.
Right.
So, in other words, even the bone scan, he said, well, if that would change anything about the way I would treat you, uh, I would do it. But if it's just background information, I don't need to know that.
Yeah, but you
So
see,
that's why I left.
this is the reason why we don't like to see urologists treating advanced disease, because
Yeah.
it should change the way he treats you. He doesn't know how to treat you until he knows how many how the extent of your metastasis. Then he
Right.
knows how to treat you.
His quote was, "I'm a Lupron man."
Yeah, well, and he's a Lupron man because that puts money in the coffers every 3 months,
Yeah, well,
and
that's what he
and
does.
and it's a problem. And we've actually taken that up with the AUA, and we continue to take it up with the AUA. We're
What's
not thrilled.
AUA? What is
The
AUA?
American Urology Association.
Oh, okay.
It's the Medical Association for Urologists, and
Got it.
we in this group we strongly believe that you should not just be seeing a medical oncologist, you should be seeing a genitourinary medical oncologist, and I suspect we'll get to that momentarily. Has anybody talked to you or done any type of genetic or genomic testing?
Yes.
Tell us.
Let me look at my notes here. Good thing I have this stuff right here. I didn't know you were going to
Yeah,
ask all these
we're
questions.
impressed. We're impressed. You can come back, Mr. J.
Yeah, there was a company called Invitae,
Yeah,
um, and let me see here. This is a diagnostic test for a personal history of disease.
yep.
Sequence analysis and deletion duplication testing of the 84 genes listed in the genes analyzed section. And then they've got a whole list of the genes they went through. Everything came back negative,
Okay.
meaning
So let
no
me.
correlation.
And did you do any other type of scan, any other type of testing or not?
Such as,
Such as what's called a sequencing, a genomic sequencing of your tumor. Because
no,
what you did was you tested to see if you've inherited any mutations,
exactly, yeah,
right?
right.
And well, your buddy, Mr. Kramer just arrived. Look at
Huh.
that. Um, so we there's another type of testing that can and probably should be done if you're metastatic, and it's advised in the NCCN guidelines. And a good oncologist should be aware of that, which is what's called genomic sequencing, and that looks for any mutations you may have made yourself, your body made, not that you inherited, but
Yeah,
that your body made and affects just the tumor. So it's not throughout your body the way an inherited mutation is, but it is in your tumor. Now, the reason why that's important is because it can influence your treatment. If we see certain mutations, you may be a candidate earlier for certain types of certain drugs, certain precision medicines. So again, we would kind of like to see that test done early. And nowadays you can do it whenever your doctor feels there's a change in your disease and it's covered by Medicare. So
okay.
when they first introduced it, it was once in a lifetime, and then it was once a year, and now it's basically whenever the doctor says we need to do it because we think there's a change. So do you
Okay,
have any
I know
questions?
we talked about it, and I don't remember, frankly, the reason why we didn't pursue that.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask us?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So tell us
so
what they are, and then we'll throw it open to the group.
yeah. So I just recently went to a radiation. I guess you call him a radiation oncologist,
Yep.
and just for a consult, not to say this is what I want to do because I really don't know, but um, I wanted to hear his point of view. And the guy spent, hour and a half with me at least. Um, and this is, his name is Patrick Richard at the Rocky Mountain Cancer Center in Boulder.
Yeah.
real nice guy. Um, and we talked about things because my question was, as a layperson, since I'm probably considered oligometastatic, can we not just essentially zap these tumors that are
Right.
on my pelvis and femur? Um, we got sort of backtracked and more talking about using radiation on the prostate itself. So I guess my confusion is, there seem to be different theories on this. His thing, he called it the mothership, going back to the prostate and doing something to it. Their thing, of course, is radiation, either SBRT or um, a new form of IMRT, which I can't tell you, I can't remember the name.
Right.
Um, but those were the things that were tossed out there.
Right.
But I am curious what other people would say about that. I mean, obviously you're trying to prevent spread. Um,
So
does it
let me
make sense?
address that.
I'm
Let me
sorry.
address that. Let me
Yeah.
address that with you, and the guys will do it, and some of the guys will tell you that they've done it. So up until probably 6 or 7 years ago, there were only a couple of places that treated the primary tumor if you were diagnosed de novo metastatic, as you were. And Mayo was renowned for doing surgery. The other place that often used this approach, not often, but did use this approach, was Memorial Sloan Kettering. And the question was, is surgery or is um, radiation appropriate for a man with metastatic disease? And in the past, the answer always was no, because we do no harm, and that does more harm than good. The the evidence seems to say that it does make sense to treat, although maybe not up front, especially if you're going to do chemo first. They generally will wait. Would you do surgery or radiation? Again, I don't think that there's a difference. All I can say is, if it were me, I'd do the radiation rather than the surgery, because the side effects are less.
So,
I don't want to say they're less, but they're less intrusive. They're definitely less intrusive. So
so
Dr. Richard, Dr. Richard, who raises radiation to the primary, is spot on in terms of that. Yes, that's something we would talk to you about here tonight, and it's great that he's raised it. In terms of spot radiation to the other spots, again, you're right on the margin of, some people will say, well, no more than 3 or 4 lesions, but we don't know how many lesions you have because you didn't have the right scanning. And that can become a bit of a whack-a-mole game. So with all that said, I want to throw it open to, how about Herb to start off with? Because Herb, you had your
right.
primary
I
radiated.
mean,
You were de novo metastatic. You had
right.
your primary radiated. The big
Right.
difference between you and Tom is that Tom's hormone therapy has brought his PSA down to undetectable.
Right. I mean, that's great, but the clinical there what when I did mine, it was sort of seat of the pants. Since the time I had my prostate radiated with SBRT, there has been a publication which shows that it does actually prolong life and progression-free survival. Uh, and it's a function of how many lesions you have. So the fewer you have, the more benefit you get. However, the way I look at it is there's variance and you never know. So I think I would say that at least I went to a great prostate radiation oncologist, a guy who really only does prostate, right? And he was he indicated that this was the appropriate treatment for me. And I think your radiation oncologist is probably knowledgeable and has recommended a reasonable approach. As to the whack-a-mole, they won't unless it causes unless they think it's going to cause a problem, unless the localization of the tumor is going to cause a problem like a collapse of a vertebrae or someplace which is very, very sensitive, they probably wouldn't do it right now.
Hmm.
Just because the do no harm bit. You're radiating bone, you're irradiating bone marrow. And so you lose some reserve there the more radiation you get. So it's not like there's no, I mean, my favorite expression in the world is there's no such thing as a free lunch. And that's a case.
You're quoting my professor.
Somebody got a haircut, Rick, didn't they?
Wow.
No, I didn't. It's just this camera. I need a haircut.
I've got some comments on this one.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was listening to the PCRI conference and about 14 hours worth of stuff. The Dr. Nicholas Vogelsang, are you guys familiar with him?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
he said that somebody who has Gleason 8 through 10 should have chemotherapy very early because it will hit all of the aggressive prostate cancer and leave the less aggressive around for the other drugs to handle. I'm not sure if that's the best advice for this person, but that is what he had to say. And he was pretty emphatic about it.
Well,
I think,
you know, to respond to that, we know that if you've got most docs would say 5 spots or more, some might say 6 spots or more, that the recommendations, the NCCN guidelines do recommend chemotherapy. The question is, what do you do with these oligometastatic men? And that's where, if I was sitting across from Dr. V, I'd be saying to him, what do we do about the oligometastatic men? I don't think there's any question if you present like somebody like Herb or some of the other Denovo metastatic guys, you would definitely, most docs would give you up front, right,
Rick,
Herb?
I think there's really a debate about the definition and the veracity of oligometastatic.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, there are very, I would say, believable, very experienced guys who would say you're only oligometastatic because we haven't found the other lesions yet.
Right.
They
Well,
also,
that's what I just said to Tom. I mean,
Right.
that's exactly what I
So,
just said to Tom.
but I think in terms of the chemo early with Nick Vogelsang, right, we can point to the Arasens trial, right, where they want to throw everything at it from
Yeah.
the get-go,
Yeah.
right? Let's give chemo, ADT, and a second generation anti-androgen all from the get-go, and let's clobber this thing. And so, I mean, that's and again, it depends, and at least I've had some discussions this week about this. It depends on the health of the patient. But Tom, you seem like you could tolerate this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It scares
I mean,
the hell
how
out
is
of me.
your general health? Were you active before this hit?
Oh yeah, I had no. I mean, I had no symptoms at all. I've got a
Right,
lot more now. I didn't
right,
have
right.
when
For
I was
me,
first. When I was first diagnosed, it seemed like a dream. It still does actually, but I was riding a bike and I was doing all kinds of stuff. And I take care of my wife 24/7, as I've told Don. And she had a stroke back in 2013, so I'm her
so,
caregiver.
so Tom, how was your disease picked up?
It started out with a just the old up the butt digital exam, and then went to the MRI to confirm, and then went to urologist to reconfirm,
Right.
and then do a biopsy.
So you did not have an annual PSA.
Well, yeah, honestly, I had blown it off for a while. My my previous doctor at one point at Kaiser, he was just retiring, and he called me up and was concerned and told me to go see a urologist. And mainly because I was taking care of my wife all the time,
Mhm.
I just didn't do it.
Sure.
Shame on me.
But I think, the idea of irradiating the prostate, I think, is a good one at this point. Whether you want to consider whether you want to go the Vogelzang route or the other route, in order to go that route, you'd really need to consult with a GU medical oncologist. I'm not sure I would trust a general oncologist to even think about it
Well, okay, I'm not
because
sure.
I am sure they haven't read the literature and they didn't go to the seminar that we just heard about. They're too busy.
So, guys, a couple of things. We're going to spend no more than another 6 or 7 minutes with Tom. So I want to make sure that anybody else that's got anything that they would like to say, talk about GU Medoncs, or
Quick
anything
thing, Rick.
similar. Yes.
Quick thing. He can get a PSMA PET if when the Lupron wears off, he waits a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. His PSA will start rising. He can get the test and then start taking the other drug.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, that's a controversial. Let me just say that's a controversial strategy, but it is possible. Anybody else want to say anything or raise any issues? Peter Kafka, you're familiar with the lay of the land around there.
Tom, this is why Rick made the comment earlier about Colorado being barren a little bit. I'm assuming you're in the Niwot area, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Colorado does not, as far as I don't know, there are no specialists. There's no genitourinary medical oncologists. I live in Hawaii, and there's none here either. So I had to go to California. You don't need to go constantly, but if you've got some specialist running your program, and the nearest ones for you are unfortunately hopping down to MD Anderson or doing it on the phone with MD Anderson or someplace in Houston or in Nebraska. In Omaha, there's a good person, or this Dr. Bolsang who was just spoken about in Nevada. So there's options, and these doctors you don't have to go to all the time, but you need to have someone on your team because there's breaking news all the time with prostate cancer, and the treatment options are changing all the time. And you need someone who's really up on it, particularly if you've got a Gleason 9, which many of us do. Probably if we raised our hands, 90% of us are Gleason 9s. And our backs against the wall, and we monitor this thing really carefully. So you're not going to die. You're in it for a long ride. You'll be fine. But you want somebody who's really sharp on your team.
Yeah, I do feel like my Dr. Barnett is. I mean, I've tried to read a lot of papers, and he seems to be up on them. Seems to be paying a lot of attention. So um, I'm not saying he's the end all be all, but at least he is. He's looking at studies, and so is the radiation oncologist I spoke with.
Yeah, but I will bring up one thing that Rick brought up before that Peter's going to bring up. By the way, let me make one slight correction. Genomic testing is what you've had. They
Yeah,
looked at what's in your genome. The next thing is called you're looking for somatic mutations in the tumor.
that's right. Yeah.
So that test you need to have because that can make a big difference in the approach. And they're part of the NCCN guidelines, and it's hard to believe that a physician would not just do it.
So there are a couple of GU Medoncs in the area, and I always forget their name, but I usually get bailed out by people that are in the group. There's a lady who some like, some don't like. Is Don Price with us tonight? He's not. There's a lady at University of Colorado. Anybody remember her name? I think it's Elizabeth something or the other.
Yeah, Kerry or something. I can't.
Maybe somebody can try and track it down for you. And there's also the guy that used to be there and now is out
Kessler.
in the boonies.
Kessler, Kessler. She's at UC
Elizabeth
Health.
Kessler. Thank
Yes.
you, Don. Yeah, Kessler. So she is a GU specialist. I have her bookmarked. I'll put her link in the chat window for you. And then there's another guy that sort of set up his own practice who writes a newsletter, who's somewhere out towards Vale. He's out in the boonies somewhere. Does anybody remember his name?
George
Gloday.
something?
Michael Gloday,
Yes.
formerly known as Glode.
He's the guy in Aspen, or
Right.
He just announced he's retiring his blog.
Okay. So here's the one for Kessler. And the other guy, Gloday, I think I have him bookmarked too. So let me just see. Let me look here. Doctors, Gloday, EFG. Yes. Yes, I do. Oh, wait a minute. I have him twice because I think I got him back when he was over at the University of Colorado. So let me put that in for you. EFG Gloday G. Got it. Okay. So here's the other one. There's Kessler and Gloday, Michael Gloday. And he's probably the type of doc that you might be able to combine with Barnett. Did you say that was his name, Barnett?
Yeah, Barnett.
Barnett. So you might well be able to combine him with Barnett. There you go. So,
hey Rick, I've
yes.
got one question. I put Mark Barnett's CV in the chat window earlier. I looked him up. He's a medical oncologist, and it says, he has interest in areas of urinary and gastro. So he's not just a GU Medonc, he also works with gastro. So I don't know, is that considered a GU Medonc or not really?
It is, because he has some interest in there. But, when you go to a community doc, unless they really are dedicated, I just don't think it's as good as somebody who specializes. If it was me, I'd rather be with somebody who just does GU medical oncology, because, as Peter said, the field is moving so quickly. It's impossible to keep up with it.
Yeah, agree. Okay.
All right, Tom. So, do we have your email address?
I think I had to put it in to register, didn't I?
You might have done. We'll have a look. I'll tell you if it's not. If not, if you can just send it either, if you want to put it in the chat window, fine. If you'd rather just send it to me through the
that's
chat
fine.
window,
I'll put
you
it in
can
the
do
chat
that.
window, Rodney.
Let's see, where is, yeah, I mean, if you just put it in the chat window or send it to me, we'll put you on the list, and you'll get a reminder for the next week's meeting, which is going to be on Tuesday. Peter will be leading that. Peter Kafka will be leading that. And, you know, think about some of the stuff that we're doing, and we'll get you tracking. But, you know, whatever's happening is not bad, because the hormone therapy is working for you, which doesn't always happen to a lot of these guys.
Right.
And, you know, you can make the argument, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But again, if you wanted to do the chemotherapy and you considered it, that might not be a bad way to go either. But so
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks for all your
All right,
comments.
I'm going to put one more doc in the chat window that looks really quite competent.
Who is
And
that?
somebody named Graham.
Where is he, Herb?
She is in Denver,
At UC Health?
UC Health.
Okay. Rick, what time is the meeting on Tuesday for him? He wants to go. Is it 4 o'clock?
Yes. 4
That's the
o'clock
early
Mountain.
one.
Yes.
That's the earlier one. So
yeah, that's right, Don. And
I've
thank you.
missed it a couple of times, Tom. So be sure and take a note. This one jumps around time wise. So
Okay.
just FYI.
Yes, our Monday meetings are always at 6 o'clock Mountain, and our Tuesday meetings are at 4 o'clock Mountain.
Okay, great. I appreciate that.
Okay, so please do that. Okay.
Thanks for all your comments. I appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome to the group.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Now, let's get into the some of the folks who have questions today. And we'll start with, well, first of all, let me check. Anybody who had questions, is there anybody that's got to leave early? Okay, because we'll get around everybody, promise. But I just wanted to make sure I don't want somebody who's got to leave early and then we don't get to them. So let's start with Jerry Pelfrey. You had a question for us, Mr. P.
Yes, I did. And it's just really a general question to everybody. I've been talking with my wife and reading some things. What does everyone think about the second booster shot for our group, the advanced prostate cancer group? How many, I just would like to know what you think about it.
Essential.
Yes.
Get it.
Essential.
I'm getting it on Wednesday.
The question is, when do you get it? A few months.
Okay, let me just ask for a show of hands here. For those of you who are, we can see, because we can't see everybody. For those of you we can see, please raise your hand if you think it's essential. Okay, and just to go the other way, please raise your hand if you don't think it's essential. So we got nobody raising. And does anybody not think?
Pat
You got one negative.
Oh,
you got one
Martin.
Negative.
And Jim, I don't know if Jim Marshall is just late with his hand.
No, Jim Marshall thinks he doesn't think, but we think he does think. Pat, do you want to say why you are opposed to it?
I just haven't, I don't like the numbers on the after effects and side effects. And I don't think it's essential. My wife got it after we'd been vaccinated. My wife got it. I tended to her for 2 solid weeks, basically. Kissed her in the morning and night. Drove her around town for appointments. Never got it. And so I think, I don't know what all I've got in my system. Maybe the steroids that I'm taking, the prednisone. I don't know. I've taken a lot of zinc, but you mock me.
Okay.
I don't care.
Drop him. Zinc. Fuck.
You wanted my opinion. You want to laugh at me for my opinion?
No, but Pat, were you talking about a booster or were you talking about the vaccine?
I got vaccine,
Okay.
but I'm not getting a booster. I think that was the question, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and
That's the question
I do
answered.
want everybody, and please let's respect everyone's opinion, because that is important, because otherwise we can't do this, because people won't talk up. So, you know, it's interesting. The more I hear, the more I think it's a function of everybody's own immune system. I mean, I've known 2 people that got COVID this week who were fully vaccinated and boosted.
Mhm.
And then I hear somebody like Pat who got 1 booster and not the 2nd booster. So I don't know. I mean, my own view, for what it's worth, for me personally, it's like chicken soup. I don't think it can really hurt much, and it may help. I haven't gotten my 2nd one yet because I'm not ready for it. I only got my 1st one at the very end of December. So I'll probably get it sometime this month. But you know, I'm happy to listen to if anybody else has any advice. And Jerry, do you have any other specific questions you'd want to ask any of these guys?
No, I'll just give you the background for it. I was reading an article, and I don't know if it was, I don't know where it was right now, but the CDC and another one of the NIH group came out, and the thing that got me is that they absolutely stated that if you have basically advanced metastatic cancer, there's no doubt you're the number one because your excuse me, amino system is shot, basically.
Compromised.
Yeah, basically, seriously. So that's what led me to the question, because I got to tell you, I was on the fence at getting that booster until I read that article, because it's like I was the number one they were talking about. So that's all I've got to say.
So in other words, what you're saying, Jerry, is you feel that because you're immunocompromised, the booster could do more harm than good? Is that your concern?
That would be my concern, but now not at all, because I'm going to go for it. I've got, you know, the other thing is I do believe what science says. So when I read that, it kind of solidified that I'm going to go get my shot. That's all.
Okay. So I'm going to do something we don't usually do, because I see that Scott came on late. And Scott, I'm assuming, is this Scott Vandenplaat? Is that do I have the right Scott? Are you there, Scott? You're muted right now. Are you there? Okay, well, I know that you were new. I know you told us you get back from work late, and we were gonna save some time for you a couple of weeks ago. We couldn't do it. But if you'd like us to talk to you about your situation, just put a note again in the chat window, and we'll break in and we'll spend 20 minutes or so with you further down the road. So I'll invite you again a little bit later, and we will keep going. Harry Spieler, what is on your mind?
I just had a question. In end of January, beginning of February, I started taking darolutamide in addition to the Zoladex. And since that time, I've been experiencing fatigue like I've never experienced before. I'm just tired all the time. And I'm wondering if anyone else has experienced similar, and if there's anything to do to offset some of that.
So the question I have for you is, I have in my notes that at one time you took apalutamide. Is that right?
Yes, I started
And
taking that.
how does the darolutamide compare to the apalutamide?
I didn't have this level of fatigue with the apalutamide.
Okay, so on that basis, let me throw it out to anybody that wants to handle this, and I'll pick on Len to start.
Yeah, I would never doubt your personal experience, Harry, but in general, darolutamide is considered to be the androgen receptor blocker that produces the least amount of fatigue. But of course, nothing works that way 100% for everybody, right? So if you find that darolutamide makes you feel more fatigued than apalutamide, I would go back to apalutamide, whatever works for you.
Yeah, the difficulty with the apalutamide is I had a mild stroke, and they were concerned that may have been a factor in it, so they took me off it. And the darolutamide seemed to be a best option because of the stroke experience with the apalutamide. And it could be all coincidental too. I just have a level of fatigue that's really, I can fall asleep at a drop of a hat, and
Are you sleeping well at night?
Tired with any physical activity, get pretty exhausted pretty quickly. So I was just curious if any kind of miracle things I could do to maybe offset some of that.
Let me ask David Muslin, who has experience with the ides of muslin and switching to a different drug. Because go ahead, David.
So I got on darolutamide about 5-6 weeks ago. I have not been feeling much fatigue. So I've been doing pretty good on darolutamide. Enzalutamide was like, it was terrible. I was non-functioning and shut down on enzalutamide. On abiraterone, you haven't taken abiraterone, have you, Harry?
No.
Yeah, you might try like Len says, try another drug and see how you do.
Yeah, I think they were concerned that those drugs are very similar in how they work, I guess, to the apalutamide. That's my understanding. That's why we went with the darolutamide direction. So, and I don't know 100% if that's really causing it or not. It could be just things in general. I don't know, but.
So Harry, the abiraterone is not in the same family as the enzalutamide, the apalutamide, or the darolutamide. It's in a completely different. It works in a different way. The problem that for some with that is that you have to take a steroid with it. So if you have issues around taking a steroid,
that's what it was.
Yeah, they steered you away from abiraterone because of steroids.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into having to take steroids. That's what it was.
Oh, but I also think if he's had a stroke, Abby has more cardiovascular side effects. So I don't know that I think that and the lutamide family is probably a better pick for you, just because.
Yeah,
But,
and
but
it seems to be working fine. I've had scans again, and nothing's progressing, and my PSA is down, and so, and I'm, just taking a guess that it's causing this exhaustion and stuff. I can't say for sure that that's the cause. It just kind of coincides, with it, the timing.
Harry, I've been on it for 3 years, and on my morning dose, I go downhill right afterwards for about 2 hours. And I find that if I do something like this morning, I went to the gym, just powered through it and came out. I feel fine now. The evening dose, I never feel much fatigue at all. But the morning dose, I do feel it, but it goes away, especially if you get active and do something to get your mind off of it. If you've got to take a 20-minute nap, take a 20-minute nap. But you come up on, at least I've found, I come up on it and keep moving.
Yeah, okay.
Herb, can you put a number on the increase in the cardiovascular effects of abiraterone versus the IDES?
I could search for a number. I don't have it.
Okay,
I don't have it. I just know that clearly it's certainly in the package insert for Abby.
It raises your blood pressure in about 30%
Right.
of guys, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? But I think the exercise advice is a really strong one, Harry.
Yeah, and that's something I haven't been doing because, it's kind of a rock and a hard place. You're so tired, it's hard to get up and moving. But that sounds like something I have to give a more concerted effort on.
So who wants to take that one on? Who wants to take on the fact that you're feeling awful, but you got to exercise? Anybody want to talk about that one?
Naturally, I do, but I have a question first. Harry, how long total have you been on you were on apalutamide first, or were you on like something before that, Lupron or anything before that?
No, I was on ADT for a couple years, and I took a holiday, and then it went metastatic to my spine, and that's when I restarted ADT and the apalutamide. And I was on the apalutamide not even maybe 4 months, possibly, when I had the stroke.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, when you got on the when you took the holiday, how much recovery did you have of your testosterone and so forth?
Oh, it took a little while to recover, but I felt great after.
You went long enough. You were off of it to recover.
Yeah, just about 2 years.
Oh, a long time. So you got back.
That's when the PSA started coming up, and it was amazing to me how quickly I got lesions on my spine. The PSA never got over 1, and it just really fast. I was surprised how quickly that happened. But
I'm sorry to hear that. The thing that's sticking out to me though is your total time on the darolutamide, the apalutamide, and now the darolutamide is not all that long a time total, right?
Right, correct.
So my experience is not with darolutamide and apalutamide. My experience was with being on Lupron and abiraterone simultaneously, and I didn't feel anything for about 6 months. I felt fine. But once I started to get the side effects, they kicked in hard the second half of the first year. And I think maybe for some guys, it does take a while before the side effects hit hard. Once they hit hard, I wanted to take a nap every day. And I took naps and I felt better. Worse every time I took a nap. So naturally, I'm the guy that sort of always wants to say, hey, you got to exercise. But if you will, the smallest amount makes enough difference to inspire you to do it the next day. Really, it's not about making some big commitment, not about spending an hour or 2 hours in the gym. It's not about it's not about a big push. It's about the little bit. If you're doing nothing, and you say you've been doing basically nothing, right? Giving into the fatigue, that's only going to get worse, Harry. So that's all I'm going to say about it. Give yourself a chance to get a little foothold in the exercise is all you need to want to have more of that good feeling.
Okay, I'll give it a try. Thanks.
Okay,
appreciate it.
Okay, guys, we're gonna keep moving here because I'm watching the clock. My fratello Len, you want to give a little report?
Sure. I guess it kind of plays into Harry's experience, but just a 20-second recap of my history. 2014, I was diagnosed with a Gleason 9, 4+5, outside the capsule, pelvic lymph nodes lighting up, seminal vesicles. I'll fast forward now to 2019, when I went down to the NIH, had the then experimental PSMA PET scan, Polarify, which is what it is now, and they found some bone mets for the first time. So it was 5 years before it got to my bones. I had been on a 28-month drug-free holiday. So, Harry had the same experience. Maybe we were both drug holiday for a little too long. But anyway, so I started darolutamide and Lupron in 2019. I stopped the Lupron when my PSA was undetectable in May of 2020. I was on darolutamide monotherapy from May 2020 to October 2021. Then I went on half dose of darolutamide, and the PSA remained undetectable. Then in January of 2022, I stopped the darolutamide altogether. So I've been on drug holiday 3 months now. My PSA went from 0.02 in January to 0.03 and then to 0.05, which was just a week ago. So, it's creeping up. I see my oncologist in another 6 weeks. I think I'll stay on the drug holiday, but I'll be talking to him about possibly another therapy or going back on darolutamide in June, which is 6 weeks. That's my update.
What about Len? What about talking to him about letting it get up to around 0.65 or higher and taking a look and seeing if we can see where the Mets are with the possible option of spot radiation?
Yes, that is something I'll discuss with him for sure. I'll see what he says.
Okay.
I will say that the two lesions I had that they radiated are resolving. They're actually healing. So I mean, it worked. It did work really well for me, at least. If anyone else is also going through that. Wow,
that's good.
Len, did you say 0.05 or 0.5?
0.05.
Pretty good. Good for you.
Yeah, very good. But clearly it's on the way up, so you just have to keep a close eye.
Hey, Len, why did you decide to get off the darolutamide completely in January?
I was starting to feel some sensitivity in the nipples, and I thought, maybe this is the beginning of gynecomastia. So I just stopped, primarily for that reason. Also, just to see how much extra energy I might get. And so, in the past 3 months being on drug holiday, definitely been able to boost my endurance in walking and weightlifting. So, I'm giving myself a chance to rebuild some muscle and bone strength. That's basically the reason.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
What's your testosterone?
386.
For you. Good for you.
How do you feel about your prospects?
Sorry, Jimmy?
How do you feel about your prospects?
Prospects. Well, you know, I'm a Gleason 9. I'm not curable, so I know it's going to go back up. And when it goes back up, then we'll decide what the best treatment is.
I want to be like you when I grow up. That's all I know.
So, you know, it gives me a great opportunity to ask how many of you read the remarks that I included in the letter, in the reminder this past week.
We thought you'd never ask.
Because it's a huge, huge issue as to how you relate to your disease. And I think that the way that Len relates to his disease is exemplary. And Jimmy's right. I want to be like you when I grow up, and it ain't easy to do it. And it isn't something you can just say, well, I'm going to embrace my disease. No, it's beyond that. Dr. John, why don't you say a few words on this issue?
Well, that was a great write-up, I think, and I almost wanted to speak just purely to make sure we had time to talk about that. For any of you that didn't see it, Rick was kind of invoking the idea that we can make an enemy out of our disease and hate it. And in fact, we probably all do that at the beginning, either that or get depressed. But that he kind of described for us a curve, a sort of an evolutionary curve in how we feel about our disease that passes through acceptance in kind of peace of mind. I mean, some of us, I'm sort of at all the phases at once. You know, I still hate it and I'm really angry and everything. But at the same time, I got to admit that this has actually done me a few favors, as strange as it may seem. I feel like, in some ways, maybe more sober and sadder person because I've got cancer, but I also am sure that I'm a better person, and my capacity for things like gratitude is greater. I'm sure nobody goes through that evolution in a step-by-step fashion, and we all circle around again every time we get bad news from our laboratories and our scans. Seems like this has been a few months when a number of us have had bad news, including a number of our leaders. But then, you know, we sort of spiral around again with hopefully what Rick invoked for us is a sort of an acceptance. And somebody spoke last week about this. Was it David? I mean, somebody sounded just really happy, and they were telling us how much. Oh, it was in the Speaking Freely group. They were talking about how every day is immensely appreciated, and
well, I think
and how that was David. Was it David? And they were not going to let what they can't do ruin what they can do emotionally.
Right.
So I think it was a very benevolent thing to do, to give us that kind of to put that kind of an idea in our head, and especially to give hope to our new members, but also hope to the older guys that are getting bad news from time to time, that it doesn't mean the end of happiness.
Right. And it came to me because I was so blown away by interviewing Elizabeth Jameson last Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
a
yeah.
woman who is now a quadriplegic in a wheelchair as a result of her multiple sclerosis. And yet she's sitting there asking, how can she advocate for others? How can she do more for others? And she actually wanted me to raise this issue about how you relate to your disease. And if you listen to her TED talk, she says that she was in denial when she was first diagnosed. And she's brought herself over the many years. She's brought herself around. She was a public advocacy lawyer, and she loved being a lawyer. And she found she just couldn't do it anymore because of her disease. Anyway, I've put the link. We will post that to our blog. But right now, that's the direct link to the YouTube, and it is good. I'm sorry that I apologize. The one in the reminder was not a good link because the Marsh took it down because they hadn't edited it yet. So that's why I told you guys to start 30 minutes in. But that is a good link. Anybody else have any thoughts that they would like to contribute? This is a healthy conversation.
I
think
really
that's a
appreciate
reminder. So
that being added. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Harry.
No, I mean, it really hit close to home for me, and also what Len had posted last week with Dr. I can't remember her name right now, but
Shankar.
yes, thank you. And yeah, I that's the biggest struggle I have is kind of accepting and moving on with the new person I am with this disease. It's just it's a difficult road, and it's nice to be able to read and hear maybe how other people deal with their challenges. So it's helpful to me, at least.
Thank you. Anyone else? Len, you wanted to say something?
Cal.
I was going to say
Cal.
that.
Sorry, Cal.
Yeah, I was just lucky. I had a really good counselor, two counselors, and they just taught me that I get to choose. You know, do I want to be bitter for what I don't have, or I want to be grateful for what I do have?
Bless you. Oh, bless you. Len.
Right. So what helps me with the idea that I'm living with a terminal condition, prostate cancer, is that life itself is a terminal condition. You have cancer or not, you know, we're all going to face a termination at some point. So there's not a big leap to go from I have a terminal illness to we all have a terminal state of being.
Oh, I'm wondering if the voice from the Eastern Front is still on the call or if he's left. Is our man on the Eastern Front still with us? He was. He might have hopped off.
Sam.
Is he there? No. So, for those of you who don't know, we have a meeting on the third Thursday of every month at 8 o'clock in this room. Free, drop in, just show up, called Speaking Freely. And we referenced it a little earlier because David Muslin was a breath of fresh air in the last meeting. And it's moderated usually by Rich Jackson, although last time it was moderated by Rusty because Rich was out riding his bike on a little vacation. And these are the sort of things that we talk about in that group. As most of you know, in this group, we tend to stick more to the technical stuff. And we have a lot of people that want to raise stuff and they want to get feedback, but these are important issues. So we don't always have the luxury of of talking about it here, but if you want to unpack some of these issues, and I'm looking at men in this group today who are regulars on the Speaking Freely call, I really encourage you to stop by, because that group gets better every month. And if we have enough people on a consistent basis, we'll take it to twice a month. But we're just getting to the point where we have to start thinking about it. But we'd love for you to come and join us on the third Thursday. And if you're not signed up for the reminder, just go on the website to the Contact Us and sign yourself up to get the reminder. Okay, we're moving along. So let's go to Jeff Marchi.
Hello there. A few things from PCRI. Lutetium, we were talking last week. How effective is Pluvicto? Well, Dr. Eugene Kwan from the Mayo Clinic said that the results are 30% have no disease, no PSA detectable. 30% have mixed response. 30% didn't help, and the other 10%, no answer. Another interesting thing, 20% of patients who took a PARP inhibitor without having genetic flaws responded to the PARP inhibitor. And to follow up on that, my brother, who's been active waiting for a while, something he really didn't let me know, was just found to need a biopsy. He just had it, doesn't know results yet. But, you know, my father died of prostate cancer, and I have it, but I have BRCA2, and he doesn't. Yet he's getting it as well. And the question is, you know, are there genetic markers they're not looking for? And maybe the two of us can help. I don't know. Color is sure looking for it right now. Let's see now. Another
Jeff,
way of detecting PSA.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. We've got comments on what you've said. Go ahead, Herb.
Jeff, the report of PARP inhibitors working without BRCA has yet to be published, and it's having trouble getting published because nobody believes it.
Huh. Well,
I mean, what people speak up about, you got to watch the published literature that's been refereed.
Well, this Kwan said this as well.
I mean, they say it, but the data are very weak.
All right. Another thing that they brought up was that some doctors, because people are not showing PSA, are using clotting factor to find out if there is a problem with prostate cancer growing, or LDH. I don't know why, but those they feel are the two things other than PSA that can help even the people who have no PSA.
But on the other thing that you said, Jeff, that I've heard it also, and I think the one third about Pluvicto seems to be more generally accepted.
Okay, when we talked about it last week, nobody had any idea what the numbers were.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you for the contribution, for educating us, Jeff. Anybody have any other comments they want to make on any of?
Jeff brought up a point that I've thought about. I mean, I'm a guy, for example, that has 3 brothers out of 3 all have prostate cancer, and our genetic testing is all pretty much negative, all 3 of us. So it brings up the question, are there a bunch of genes out there that we don't know about? What about that? Is there a feeling in the literature that really, you know, we know all the bad actors, or that we only know the ones we know and there's still more maybe out there?
I think, Rick's friend Ellie would argue that there's lots more to be discovered.
Right.
That if we look harder, we're going to find more. And, what we've picked, because of the tests we've been using, John, we've got the low-hanging fruit. And I think now research is about maybe it's not just single gene. I mean, we're talking about, BRCA, single gene mutation. Well, the likelihood that if you have a double hit in 2 different genes could increase the probability of prostate cancer. And that's, that's still a fertile examination field. So I don't think the game is over by any means.
Your color is trying to do something about that. They're willing to DNA test all 3 of you, the 2 brothers and yourself, for free, and because they're doing studies, and I'm gonna get a hold of their people about what, my brother and my father and him not, what else are they? There've got to be more genetic issues, because 1 in 8 chance of getting prostate cancer, all 3 of you getting it, that's not 1 in 8. That's extremely unlikely.
Hold on to those questions. Hold on to those questions, because in June, we will be holding a webinar with one of the principal investigators of the PROMISE trial, as well as a medical representative from Foundation Medicine. We're going to be talking about germline and genomic sequencing, and we're going to be talking about the PROMISE trial, which you're eligible for. Your brother is certainly eligible for. If you've been diagnosed with prostate cancer, you're eligible for the PROMISE trial.
That's done. Yeah.
And that's going to be a great question to ask Dr. Channing Palla, who is going to be here to represent the PROMISE trial. So, but the one thing I did want to say before we move on is, please have your brother join either Joe Gallo or Peter Kafka.
I told him. Yes.
Good. Sign him up. Go sign him up so he gets the reminder.
Okay. Will do. All right.
Did anyone have?
Yes.
This is John again. Did anyone have this experience? I tried a couple times to sign up for PROMISE, and my answer always came back that my email was not eligible for enrollment.
What?
What the heck does that mean? Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you, if you still have it, if you still have that email, send it to me. I'll forward it on to the powers that be and have them resolve that, John, please.
Thanks, Rick. Okay.
Yeah, because we have some connections there, and we'll try and dig down to what's going on there, because there should be no reason why that happened. If there is, there's something going on they're not talking about. So let's keep rolling along here, and let's go to Cal Van Zee. Are you with us, Cal? Yes, he is.
Yeah. I just I got my PSA reading after my 5th treatment. So I just got my 6th last week, but this was just before the 6th one, and I was pretty disappointed because it was up at 30, I guess, before I started chemo, and dropped down to 17, but it was 17.4, and then this last time it only dropped to 17.2, and it was hard to take, because it hasn't been horrible. I haven't been super nauseous, but it just takes so damn long. The chemo, it's 4 months, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, maybe my expectations were too high, so I just wanted to ask whether my expectations are too high. That I should just chill about my PSA and not worry about it so much, because my doc's going to set me up for Pluvicto here sometime this summer.
And Cal, the other part of it is its PSA isn't the whole ball game, right? Your scans would say what's happening as well, right? So
yeah, I had I guess when my PSA was going up, it was probably about what it is right now. There were a few places that they called out, but it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't dramatic at all. They thought maybe they saw a place on my lung, but it was unclear. And the thing that was scariest for me was that they were talking about some hardening um, coming out of the kidney. But again, my doctor said he wasn't so worried about that. Because I guess he knew that I was going to start chemo, probably in the next month or so. So I started in January, and I haven't had a scan since. So I'll have to get the PSMA scan to see if I'm PSMA positive or not. And I guess that's maybe one of my other questions too, is that maybe you guys know this. When Pluvicto got approved, it got approved for the gallium PSMA scan, not the Pylarify. And gallium's hard, even here in Seattle. It's not easy to get.
Okay, so let me help you on that one. I can help you on, and then I want to come back. Okay.
Okay.
So two things. First of all, the gallium 68 scan now has a kit available for it called Locometz, LOCOMETZ. Okay. That kit is actually fairly readily available. If you go to the Advanced Accelerator Applications Patient Connection page, and I can't put this in for you right now because I can't, because I'm talking to you, but it's there. If you can't find it, email me. You can actually search for where Locometz is available. I'm almost certain it's going to be available. Okay.
Okay.
And they are spreading that Locometz package out pretty quickly. Now, I heard from somebody last week, I think it was George Denyon, when he spoke to the people in Glen Burnie, that they would accept a non-Locometz PSMA scan.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, now that's the first I've heard of it, but there's been talk even by Novartis that they are going to widen it and make it available, even though the approval was specifically for Locometz. But I think you should be able to find a Locometz. Somebody put something in the chat window. Yes. Who was that? Herb. Thank you, Herb. He put it in the chat window. So by the end of the night, maybe you can find a spot where you can get Locometz instead of Pylarify.
Okay. Thanks.
The locator isn't working yet.
Oh, the locator's not working yet? Okay, because
Right.
I found lutetium. I thought I found lutetium locations on there last week. Let me just say the other thing, which is that you're plateauing at that 17 level. And again, this is purely anecdotal. We've seen it before, people plateauing, and they'll plateau for a while and then they'll dive again. So yes, it's discouraging, but we've even seen people go up a little bit and then come down. And what you have to recognize is that when prostate cells die, they make PSA. And so, it's their last flourish. And so you get a boost sometimes. And so you can get strange things happening with the PSA. That's why Herb's talking about some of the other things. So I don't want to hold out false hope to you, but at the same time, don't be totally discouraged right now.
Okay.
You have such a great attitude, Cal. We love your attitude. And so we're all pulling for you, man. We really are.
Thank you.
And anybody else want to say anything about plateauing?
Would it help for him to talk to Frank Fabish a little bit?
I can't remember Frank's history, David. I'd have to look.
Yeah.
I cannot
Okay.
remember. I can't remember Frank's history, but I will look. I'm making a note, and if that, the person probably to talk to is Ken Anderson. But then that's sort of an extreme case.
So how do you choose which PSMA scan you want? Does it depend on whether you're interested in lutetium or not?
Well,
is one more sensitive than the other?
The answer, here's what they said originally, and I'm going back 3 or 4 years. The Pylarify scan was supposed to be a better scan, a more sensitive scan. But over the years, over the last 3 or 4 years, there is a number of GU medical oncologists who feel that it's oversensitive and it delivers too many false positives. And the specificity of the Locometz scan, the gallium-68 PSMA-11 scan, is better. And so there are some docs who specifically will ask you to get a Locometz scan, and I've known docs that will send you over to from one coast to another just to get it, because up until a few weeks ago it was only available at UCLA and UCSF. Now that the Locometz scan they have this kit that's readily available, it's more likely you're going to get it. Now, here's a little trick in looking for a place that might have Locometz. Look to see who delivers Lutathera. Let me put that in the box. Lutathera. Lutathera is a radionuclide that's used for neuroendocrine cancers, that's made by advanced accelerator applications. And so they have set up, those places delivering Lutathera are set up to be able to do gallium-68 scans pretty quickly, because they're already working with the AAA, and there's a good chance that if a radiation site is delivering Lutathera, it will be able to deliver Locometz.
Yeah, I think the concern with my oncologist, and he was very confident, that he'd be able to set it up, but it was more about insurance, and so part of the whole process of getting signed up is that it's being run through radiology at Swedish, and they have a consultation with you about insurance, and they actually submit when your doc first puts you in to apply for it, they submit you to your insurance to make sure that you're going to be good.
Right. So this is where we heard from a local place last week that they could get it through insurance, and they could get it through with a different scan. So, it's a bit of a moving target right now.
Yeah, it's new.
Yeah, but that said, check with, if somebody's delivering Lutathera, there's a good chance that you could find Locometz there too.
Okay, and thanks for the input on the PSA, Rick. Appreciate that.
Okay. All right, I'm keeping moving here. I'm keeping moving. We're gonna go to David Muslin. We're going through the board of directors now. David Muslin first, and then
Okay. So this is really about getting labs at different locations. I just want to give you a quick history here. So when I'm in Chicago, I go to Northwestern and get my labs, and they historically have been Hang on a minute, I got to sign back in. I had it all up here. Test results, 0.04, 0.03, 0.01, undetectable. Okay, through November of this year. Last one was 0.01. And then I was going to my Quest diagnostics. They were just a pain in the ass to get in and get out. And I did a few tests with them. I'm getting tests every month, once a month. And I'll tell you what those are. Everything just shut down on me here. And those were coming back at negative 0.01 3-4 times in a row. And then I went to Boca Regional Hospital to get a test there because they're so easy to get in and out. And first test a month ago was negative 0.01. Hang on one second, let me just confirm that. PSA. Okay. So in March 29th, it was negative 0.1. And then I did a test on April 22nd, and it came back just 0.1, no negative part. So just throwing it out to the group. I'll be back in Chicago next week. And is this something I should be worried about? Or do you think I'm just jumping around to too many labs?
I would worry for negative values because it can't be negative.
Yeah, it's not negative. It's a negative. It's this sign.
Less than.
Less than. I'm sorry. I call it a negative less than, which means it's undetectable.
Right.
So I got the same number back, but it wasn't. I didn't have that less than mark in front of it this time.
David, this is noise.
Yeah.
This is just
got
noise.
it. I thought so.
They're all the same number.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't even going to bring it up, but I thought I would because I was just a tad worried.
That showed me mine was rising when it went from less than 0.1 to 0.1. It went up from there. More than once.
Yeah, but Jeff, but we're talking here to another decimal place. He's talking about 0.01. When you test at Kaiser, they test to 0.1. But what David's talking about is less than 0.01 or 0.01. And this is why I'd rather see everybody, I'd rather have them ask you, do you want to go to 0.1 or 0.01? Because when you go to 0.1, it doesn't bother you. You don't see that. And it really isn't that significant. We actually put a recommendation into the AUA when we went back to them and we said, please, and they didn't pick up on it, but we wanted urologists to ask their patients, do you want to test to 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places if we're testing after we've treated you? Because it can make you crazy. So the answer is, my answer to you would be, don't pay attention. Exactly what Herb said, noise. It sounds to me like noise. Anybody else want to say anything on that one?
I just think that's going to happen when you go to different labs.
Yeah.
If you went to the same lab for everything, you would probably be getting the same result.
Yeah. Agreed. Thanks, gentlemen. Keep moving.
No.
I'll let you know. And by the way, my testosterone went up from 230 to 280 this past month. So it's on the rise.
Good. Oh, wow. Okay, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a okay. And are you feeling better for that, David?
The girls haven't looked so good in a long time.
Okay, okay. So,
The
but
bottom
listen,
line has
you're
been met.
you're going to be on that boat for quite a while, just with Ellen, you know.
I know.
Girls have been waiting for you.
Thanks, guys, for everything.
Okay, Herb, give everybody else your news.
Well, the news, I'm on this Pluvicto journey. And if you remember the first time I was going to get a dose, my first dose, they called me the day before and said, well, the drug didn't pass QC, so we'll put you off a week. And then so my second dose was supposed to be Thursday, and I get an email today saying there isn't any drug available, that they can't produce it. So they have to delay. So AAA has got problems. Novartis has problems. It must be that there's an enormous demand and they can't produce the drug, the stuff. But at any rate, hopefully it won't affect my course of my disease, but it's still annoying that we can't do this on a regular schedule.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been a concern for me that would they be able to deliver when the drug got approved? It's always been a concern. I thought it was around staffing issues, radionuclide technicians. I'm still not certain that isn't the problem, because we don't know. I mean, it could be they don't have enough chairs, so they just tell you, oh, they're not delivering the drug. We don't know. We don't really know.
Well, at Hopkins, no, they're giving Lutathera at the same place with the same people.
Right. But what I'm saying is that they may have so many people that want it that they don't have enough time for everybody. And especially if they're getting paid for it, in not in the trial, who knows what's going on, Herb? Well,
I'm less cynical about that.
Okay.
I'm just accepting the fact that there's something wrong with the supplier.
Don't know. But I think it's more critical for people who the people that really concerns me about are the Steve Safs and the George Denyans, who we've got to get it into them super quickly.
Didn't this happen? Oh, sorry. Didn't this happen just before they were approved, like a month before, why they had to close it?
Yeah, it happened in November, and it got approved in April.
So they got
but again, we don't really know what the problem was. They said it was delivery issues, but we just don't know. So, again, it's just an issue. If anybody else is in line, just it comes with the territory right now. A year from now, we won't even be talking about this, I hope. Yeah. So, Scott, are you with us? Can you turn on your mic?
I am here.
You are here. Okay. I would like to because I think we've been through everybody, and I know you told us you get home late, and I would love to take a little bit of time for you to go through your situation, and we'll treat you as a new guy at the end instead of a new guy at the beginning, because
appreciate it.
We really want to be able to support you, and you deserve that support. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, even though I know a little bit about you, and then we'll throw it open to the guys. And I ask everybody to bear with us and hang in and listen, because this is a somewhat unusual situation here. So, Scott, how old are you?
I am 43.
Okay. And where do you live?
I'm in Chicago.
Right. And
You're not
we
going
have
to try
a
to
few.
guess. You're not going to try to guess all my passwords after getting all this personal information, right?
We have a few Chicagoans. We have a few Chicagoans here who would love to support you, I can tell you. And when were you first diagnosed?
It was July of last year.
Okay. And your Gleason score and your PSA level at diagnosis?
At diagnosis, I was 4+3, and my PSA was right around 6. The highest it ever was 8, but it stuck around like 5 or 6 for the most part over the last year.
Okay. And what doctor were you seeing when you got your diagnosis, and what made you get your PSA tested at that age?
So the doctor was Dr. Perry at Northwestern in Chicago, and the reason that I was that I got tested was I actually had taken an internet, like a startup blood test that they like. It was called Let's Get Checked, and I actually took a testosterone test. I took a bunch. It was like testosterone, like metabolic, etc. But the testosterone came back, and my testosterone was actually low. And so that caused me to go to an endocrinologist and get a full blood panel. Part of that panel was PSA, and that's where I first got an indication that something was wrong. But also part of that panel was also my testosterone levels, and it turned out that that internet blood test was total bullshit. My testosterone levels, as we all know, like testosterone fuels this, and they were through the roof. And my free testosterone was like off the charts high. So I don't know. We don't know exactly what's going on there, but the PSA came back at 8 at that time. That caused me to go to my primary care, who did a PHI. Went to the Dr. Perry after that, who is a surgeon at Northwestern. And this is now, so that started in April or May, and now this is like July or so. I got a biopsy, or got an MRI first. It showed pyrides 4 and 5 lesions. Got a biopsy after that. That's where I got the first grading. I got the biopsy, a second opinion from Hopkins, and they slightly downgraded the grading there. It was really on the border. So it was really like 3+4, 4+3. They weren't really sure. Then I went to Mayo Clinic for a second opinion, saw Dr. Borjan there, who's now the chair of the urology department, I guess. And he was wonderful, actually. And he heard my description of my symptoms. I had described some pain that I had in my side, and he just said, let's get you a bone scan just to be sure. And sure enough, bone scan showed up a couple of spots. I found out I had, there's a couple of lesions in my rib. Well, the bone scan showed a number of areas, like my shin, my skull, some of my rib, or two of my ribs on both sides. And so I then went that caused Northwestern then to say, you're no longer a candidate for surgery. They're following a standard of care. They're going to go with hormone treatment and local radiation, and spot radiation to the ribs, or any other spots. And Mayo Clinic, though, was more aggressive about it, and they recommended I still proceed with surgery, because the overall, despite the fact that there are a number of locations and distant metastatic spread, the overall volume of disease is incredibly low. In fact, many of the spots, if not most of the spots, are on the indeterminate side. So it's like they're glowing on the PSMA PET, but it's like not glowing enough where they don't really know what's going on, which is a little weird now because they're still glowing on the PET even post surgery and everything. And I have a 0 PSA at this point. So I'm actually lighting up a PSMA PET, but I don't have any. My PSA is totally undetectable, which is potentially indicative of the fact that my disease might not be PSMA targeted now. there's some other like indications of that potentially as well, but it's again, the overall volume of the disease is so low that it's a little bit hard to tell. So anyways, the long story short, got that PSMA PET back in October. Went forward with surgery in January this year at Mayo Clinic, and that went phenomenally well. I'm essentially fully recovered at this point, which is great. And then I started with, I'm at Mayo Clinic with Dr. Kwan still, and he started me on taxotere and carboplatin as well as Lupron. And I just finished my third treatment last week. So I'm about halfway through now. So should be wrapping up sometime in late June, and should hopefully get another scan in mid-July. I'm actually going back for a rescan on Friday here this week. That's where I'm at.
And are you doing your chemo? Did you switch your chemo to somewhere local, or are you still schlepping up to?
I'm still going to St. Paul, and I really like the oncologist there, and I'm getting really good results from it. Actually I shockingly am keeping my hair despite all of that, which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
Which is one of the, I guess, benefits of going to this doctor, but I'm mostly going at this point because I trust him, and I have a good relationship with him, and I don't mind the drive.
And what did they do any genomic sequencing of your disease?
Yeah, I actually did Invitae, the blood test. I actually just ordered color by myself just because I want to know and just see if it shows anything different. Nothing showed up on Invitae. And I also did Caris on the actual biopsy. And nothing showed up there either. Like it just showed essentially normal targeting. And then I just did Guardant 360 as well, and that didn't show anything. Was not able to actually pick up any tumor. I think it's most likely because the low volume of disease I have, but it did not pick up any tumor cells in my bloodstream, so it was not able to get a result. So I've done 3, and I'm going for a 4th now with color. Might as well just get them all.
Well, we particularly like Foundation Medicine. Guardant is a tough one, but Caris is good, and if Caris didn't show anything, and Tempus is also another, Tempus and FMI I think is who we tend to bet our money on. But it sounds like with this PSA now down to undetectable, and you're recovering, certainly all the right moves. We'll throw it open to the guys in a second. I think there's one other important factor that you didn't mention. You're gonna have to explain this one around. I'll tee this one up for you, Scott.
Yeah,
is there prostate cancer in your family?
So this is kind of crazy. There was not when I was diagnosed, and then after I was diagnosed, my father went in and got checked, and then he too was diagnosed, but he has Gleason 6, and he's in active surveillance right now. So he does have prostate cancer. He's 72 right now. So he's like on more of like a normal course of the disease than I am. But when I started this journey, did not have prostate cancer in my family, but now I do. I do have some breast cancer in my family, and at least 3 or 4 women in my family have had breast cancer. So there is the possibility of like some unknown BRCA-like mutation in my family. It's seemingly more and more likely, like with the weird characteristics of my disease. But I have to say that it's a little bit weird to go through this at my age, and also with the just weird diversity of characteristics of the disease. That it feels like on one hand that I'm doing really well, on the other hand that I'm not doing well at all. So and I'm not sure which place to fall in here, but the treatment right now is going phenomenally well. My blood work looks great. Like I'm responding in like a really good way for chemo. So I'm feeling pretty good.
And your dad is seeing Shmulewicz?
You know, I double checked. He is not seeing Shmulewicz. He's actually seeing another oncologist at University of Chicago.
Okay. Okay.
But I did recommend you go and talk to him.
Yeah. And I think we would say it wouldn't be a bad thing to add him to your team.
I'm planning on doing that as well. Yeah. I'm still going. I still have the Northwestern oncologist that I use for second opinions and such. But honestly, I have not had a really great just experience at Northwestern right now, and I know that there's other doctors there that you had recommended in the past I can look into too that I definitely should. But I think I'm going to start with the University of Chicago and Shmulewicz there and just kind of take it from there.
Yeah, we've got a couple of guys on this call who see Shmulewicz. David, do you want to say something about Shmulewicz?
Yeah, he's just easy to communicate to. He gets me, understands me, and he's flexible and open, and it's a two-way street.
It's good. I like that.
And David actually switched from Northwestern. So.
Oh, okay.
Who do you work with in St. Paul?
It's Dr. Hujak, and he's at the what's it called? Minnesota Oncology.
Yeah. We used to know a really good guy at Minnesota Oncology, but he's moved over to the university now. Guy that we did like a lot, but he's Stuart Kramer, I think his name was.
And Rick, I checked with Brian about the local oncologist as well that he was working with, and he said that unfortunately that person is no longer here. So that he's now working with the person that Dr. Kwan had worked with before.
Okay. So let me throw it open to anybody that would like to say anything to Scott.
Genetic testing. With relatives with breast cancer, you will be definitely have no problem.
Jeff, he's done it. He's done it with Invitae.
I missed it.
And he's done it with Invitae, and he's just done it going to color.
Yep, I'll let you know. Quite literally while I was on this call, I was like, oh, you know what? I forgot. I'm going to go order that color. And I just ordered the test. So I'll let you know when it comes back next time.
Where's your family from? What countries?
Oh, gosh, a bunch of them. But primarily Ireland,
Germany?
Belgium,
Germany? Yeah, that may be BRCA too then. Because my aunts have breast cancer, my cousin, I have prostate cancer, BRCA too. It's, it sounds like it.
Okay.
No more comment.
I've now talked to I think 5 or 6 different oncologists in this whole journey here, and every single one of them has said to me, I wonder if you've got something BRCA related or like it's somewhere in that ballpark, right? And that I'm still not coming up positive on the test though.
So let's go to Les Shelderup, because Les is a veteran Dr. Kwan patient. Les.
Yes, well, I know that you're not really in favor of him, but I've been going to him for a number of years, and I have been satisfied with him. There's a few things that I don't appreciate, but in general, he's been pretty good.
I should say too, the reason, I definitely am with Kwan for a primary reason, and that's the aggression that Mayo shows, and how hard they go and throw everything at things right up front. And from the best that I can tell, that's my best chance, right? And I am 43. I'm younger than a lot of you here, maybe all of you here. Yeah. I'm willing to throw my body on the line and just take the abuse and just grind me to a paste, right? That's my whole philosophy. That, as far as I can tell, that's what's going to get me the best possible end result here.
Yeah, absolutely. Les, any words of advice with respect to Quan any tips you can give Scott?
Well, the only negative that I think he goes a little bit too much by old history, that he's run into bad things in the past and he doesn't want to revisit them. But my main positive thing is that, he works with only advanced prostate cancer. That's the only thing he touches, and it's got to be very advanced. He goes for those that are turned away other places. He claims that he's got one patient that was taken out of hospice 10 years ago. He's still working with him. Now that's one case, but
yes, Calvin Z.
Yeah, Scott, have you been working through this whole time?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got diagnosed, man, everybody said go on leave, and I'm like, I got to work or I'm going to go crazy. But I can tell you that when I started chemo, I went on leave, and that was the best thing I ever did.
I've been taking a couple days around, like when I actually go for treatment. I usually take like 2 or 3 days just because I usually don't feel that good. And the day after, I'm not so great. But the timing of mine, luckily, it actually hits so that the worst of it on days like 3, 4, 5, when I'm really feeling beat up afterwards, it ends up falling on the weekend. And so I end up sleeping like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, waking up Monday, feeling pretty good and kind of back into it again. So I bet if I had different timing on it, if I didn't actually get treatment on a Tuesday, that I would have to take off. There's no way I would be able to do that weekend. Those days are tough.
Yeah, I'm just saying that everybody told me to go on leave, and I was like, I got to work or I'll go crazy, and and to just go and check it out. And I mean, my company's benefits were really, really they were really great, and I'm just resigning just here in the next month, so I haven't been working for 2 months, and I outlived their actuarial tables. So,
Scott, this is John in Connecticut. I'm glad you found us, and you've learned an awful lot, obviously, in the last year. Have you had any other peer support in the last year? Are we the first time you've talked to other guys?
No, I've gone to a couple of the groups like this. I actually went to one of the Us Two, ones that was organized at Northwestern, and I also went to the Under 60 group that AnCan does.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's actually how I found out about this group. Was I went to the Under 60 group and they referred me over here.
Yeah, and did you see? Was Jim Schrate the moderator at the Northwestern Us Two group when you went?
He was, yeah.
Yes. So Jim, I'm pretty close with Jim, and he moderates our active surveillance group, and I love him. He's the best.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he's unfortunately that group is no more, as you may know.
I do, and it was a very low volume group generally. When I was there, there certainly wasn't the 30, 40 people that were on this call for sure.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything they'd like to raise or say? David, is that David Muslin who's got his hand up? Go ahead, Mr. M.
I just want to commend you, Scott. Since you were diagnosed in July, well, you sure got up to speed fast. And I think, I really commend you for hitting this thing hard and hitting it straight on, and look forward to meeting you one day. I'm from Chicago too.
I appreciate that, David. Thank you. I'm kind of a type A type of dude, and there is no other option for me here.
Yeah,
I would love, Scott, I'd love to see you get together with David. He's coming back from Florida at the end of this month, and he'll be in Glencoe, and maybe you guys can figure out a way to
that sounds good.
Meet up.
Yeah, David, I'm in Chicago proper, but that's not far from here.
Look forward to it.
Rick, Dr. George had his hand up there. You want to go
Dr.
ahead?
George. Dr.
Hey, guys.
George.
Yeah, Rick, this is a great group. You guys point everybody in the right direction. Most guys don't know how to navigate this whole thing. And I'm one of them. I'm a physician, and I had no idea. And between you and Dominic, when I called you guys, you kind of set me on a path that, made me advocate for myself. And the support group is great. There is another group in Boston that has a great support group. They have an advanced group, and then they have a lecture at 7, first Monday of every month. And it really is it's another good support for guys with advanced cancer. Scott, do you know why you had such a high testosterone?
Still a mystery, like that. Do not know, except for just nature, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, because I just say that because I was 49 and my testosterone was like in the high 200s, and I had symptoms, and I went on testosterone replacement, and my levels were consistently high. As high as 900, 1,000. And I had a MRI of my back when I was 49, which showed nothing. It was just I had some lower back issues. But a year later, I had metastatic disease everywhere. I had my spine, my ribs, my femur, my pelvis. So I had widespread disease. And I did exactly what you did. I was 50 at the time. My first PSA ever was 94. So that's my baseline PSA, I guess you could say. And I did what you did. I just pursued everything. And I advocated for myself. I did the genetic testing, the genomic testing of the tumor. A lot of times you just have to, do your own research and, find the doctors that, Rick and those guys, these guys know, they know the doctors that are good. And the GU oncologist is the quarterback, and, they kind of, run the show, and as long as you trust the one you have. And, I was fortunate to see Dr. Myers, who only treated advanced prostate cancer, which I think is for a guy with, I had widespread metastatic disease. So in some ways it was easy for me because, like you, I wanted the shotgun approach. And I was told by 3 doctors in Boston, we'll give you some Lupron every 3 months and then we'll see how it goes. And I didn't accept any of those. I wanted everything done. I wanted chemo. I had combination therapy, which wasn't even at the time for sensitive. It was for castrate resistance, but I still got combination therapy, and I had a lot of other things like metformin and different vitamins and it worked. It worked for me. And it's been 8 years later. I'm 58. I'll be 59 in May. So I can only go to the under 60 group for another year, and then I become like everybody else who's over 60 here. But
I want to say, I want to say that he didn't tell you he didn't give you the punchline. And what's your status today, Dr. George?
Well, they didn't take prostates out in 2014. Everybody just kept their prostate. It was like, well, you got widespread disease. Why are we going to do anything with your prostate? And my lesions all cleared up. My bone scans became clear. My PSA was undetectable initially, and then when I stopped the ADT, because I still had a prostate, it started to go up a little bit, which is normal because I still had a prostate. And they did a biopsy of my prostate, which was, they did 14 cores and they were all negative. So the thought was, well, why take your prostate out now? I still wonder about that. Maybe they should have radiated my prostate or something. But, a prostate does come in handy at times, even when you're 50, 58, I can't imagine being 43, geez. But you definitely, Rick can give you my email, or I can give you my number on the chat, and we can talk, because we kind of have similar backgrounds a little bit. It's and it's real scary to, when you get the diagnosis, all you think about when you wake up in the morning is, I got cancer. And now I don't think like that. Every 3 months I say, okay, what's my PSA? I get anxious. I get the test. It turns out okay. And then I'm like, yes, I got another 3 months to live. And then when the 3 months comes, I get anxious and I get the PSA, and it's like, yes, I got another 3 months to live. So there is hope even for people with widespread metastatic disease.
Well, thank you, George.
So,
that's very helpful.
Anytime.
Okay, guys.
And George, I'm very happy to hear that the condition you're in. That's really great. Thank you so much for telling me.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Yes, and I'll be sure to connect you. I've got a note here, so I'll make the connection, or you can email each other. You can put it in the chat window, but I'll make sure it happens. All right. Did we get around everybody? Well, first of all, anybody else have anything they want to say to Scott before we close out? Okay. Well, I want to say.
Halfway point on chemo now?
What was that?
At the halfway point?
Yeah, I just finished the third one. And that was last week, so I'm halfway in.
The last three can be a ride, but good luck to you.
Yeah, I heard that the Taxotere gets a little easier, but the carboplatin builds up and accumulates over time.
I did both of them. Yeah, so I'm with you. Just hang in there, you'll make it.
I have to say this last one was the weirdest one for sure. Like, it definitely was the one that hit me the hardest for sure.
Well, keep the faith, keep coming back. We're really, really going to try and do our best to support you every way we can, Scott. And we got some great guys in Chicago, David and John Ivory, who I've connected you to, and Brian. So, this is a good group, and the common, the value of the common knowledge is enormous. So, bounce anything that you want off of us. And we know you come in late, so we'll try and recognize you. We know it's harder for you to get to these meetings because you're working, but we'll try and do what we did today. We'll make exceptions. So.
Appreciate that. I also have 3 young boys, so they're a pain in the butt, and they go to bed right around this time. So it's always a gamble which one I have to pick.
Okay. Well, and reach out to us outside of the meetings. We'll connect you any way we can outside of the meetings as well.
Appreciate that.
Is there anybody that has any questions that we didn't get to? Is there anything that's outstanding? If not, we're going to close up. So
Rick,
anybody have anything? Put your mic on now. Yes.
Rick, I had a general question regarding the Pluvicto. Is there any talk about that being offered to people who have not gone, castrate resistant and have not gone through chemo? It seems like that's the sequence, castrate resistant, chemo, and then Pluvicto. Is there any talk about giving that to people earlier on in the disease progression?
So the chemo might be before the castrate resistance, but certainly you have to be castrate resistant and you have to have done chemo. Not that I know of now, although eventually it's, I'm going to pass this off to Herb in a second.
There are trials. There is a trial.
Okay.
right?
Yeah. What I was going to say is there are trials out there. So we know where the trials are for the castrate sensitive, but it's
Right.
going to be a good while before they come in. Go ahead, Herb.
No, well, that's what I was going to say. While it's not approved, there are trials ongoing, and we'll know in a few years. I mean, it may take longer because if they're giving it to people early in the disease, it takes longer to get to an endpoint. Right?
Right.
So that's that's why you can get a faster result with people who are further along.
I'm trying to. Do you remember the name of the trial, Herb? It's got a catchy
I do not.
name.
I do not.
I've got it. Hold on a minute, because I remember I bookmarked it, and I bookmarked it with the name. So if I just bear with me 1 second and let me see if I can find it here for you. Clinical trials. PCA. Clinical trials. Okay, let me see. Splash.
Splash.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's the one. Oh no, that's the one for chemo naive. I think you may have to be that. Splash is the trial that they're doing for chemo naive, but you may have to be castrate resistant.
Yes, Splash is castrate resistant.
Yeah, chemo naive, castrate resistant. I'm not sure of the castrate sensitive trials that are. I think Herb's right; they're going on, but I'm not sure of the names of those trials. But you could. Oh, here it is. PSMA4. That's the one.
Yes, MA4.
Addition. PSMA addition. PSMA4 is castrate resistant. PSMA addition. So it's PS, and I'll give you the number. It's NCT 04720-157. 04720-157. That's the PSMA addition. That's for the hormone sensitive.
Can you repeat that number, Rick?
Sure. 04. I'll tell you what. Hold on a minute, and
I'll
just
put it in the chat.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to put it in the chat.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, just curious, It's
There you go. That's the trial. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, guys. I think that's it for tonight. Good meeting. And we'll see you next week. Peter will be here. Peter will be in the chair. And definitely I'll repeat it again, but you've got to watch this interview I did with Elizabeth Jameson. She's unbelievable. She's amazing. She's amazing. And she's just an inspiration. So
Rick, recording.